Ladies and gentlemen and ladies, ladies and gents, gonna take a little time. I cannot begin to express how extremely tired and exhausted I am. It's been a full straight year, no breaks, going over contract law, arbitration, but I had to do something because I knew there was something to this. So I had to get rid of all that junk I thought I knew. Do you know that this arbitration and contract thing has nothing to do with no United States being a corporation? No, in a way it does, because United States can contract, and if they contract with a private individual, that means they abandon their capacity as sovereign. Why? Because when they contract with a private individual, you see, the sovereign doesn't have to contract with anybody. He's got sovereign power. He can do whatever he wants. He is a sovereign. But when the sovereign contracts with the lowly, when he contracts with the peasants, when he contracts with the people, the sovereign has to stoop down, has to condescend. So the sovereign has to waive certain rights. But when they engage in commerce of any kind with the people, remember the New Deal? The New Deal, they waived their rights. Why? Because they were dealing with commerce. Remember, anytime the government engages in commerce, they abandon their sovereign capacity. They do it willingly, willfully, and are to be treated as any other corporation. You guys know about that as the Clearfield Doctrine, but it is not the Clearfield Doctrine, ladies and gentlemen. It was only called the Clearfield Doctrine because of the Supreme Court ruling. But back in 1824, in the Bank of Georgia versus Planners Bank, that determination was already rendered because it's a fundamental principle of law. So yes, United States corporation does matter, but when those of you who know about the United States being a corporation, if only you would read, that is the Federal Debt Collection Procedures Act. That's what section of the law that's in, or the stupid regulations and statutes. But taking the time to do the research in a year, I had to get rid of all of that knowledge, all of that straw man stuff. Is there a straw man? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a straw man is just the infinite state. That is your straw man. That is what the government is operating with. That is the constructive trust that was created for your benefit. Yes, I said benefit, not to harm you, for your benefit. You're just not operating with it correctly. So what are they doing? They're taking advantage of your ignorance. That's all right. Ladies and gentlemen, it's all right. It's okay. Let them do what they do. What do you mean let them do? Look what they're doing to me. Ladies and gentlemen, didn't you all see what New Hampshire said? All right, some of you guys are new. And we're going to... Oh, I'm sorry. I got to stop this right here because that's my voice recognition. With Dragon Naturally Speaking, y'all know about Dragon. Dragon is my naturally speaking software. I had my back turned to the computer, so that's why I didn't see that. Let's see. Do I want to go under this one? I want to go under this one. No, I can't go under that one. That one ain't possible. Let's go under this. Just so all of you know, the website has been remodeled a little bit. It is up, and the SAP packs have all been suspended, including the SAP Pack Plus. Even though you'll be able to click on it, you won't be going nowhere. Okay? All of them have been suspended. Why? Because SAP Pack 1 and 2, we are making sure. See, what PayPal did is they wanted to interfere with us as an organization. They are not. We're putting your interests ahead of ours. So we're making sure that we use all of our assets to shore up these SAP packs, as was our promise. Okay? We're going to start another SAP pack program, but this program will not be backed by the assets of the organization. It will only be providing services for people like it did originally. A new POA, specifically including an arbitration agreement. Anybody want to challenge your POA? That's what we're going to be doing. But there'll be a lot more in that POA, so I'm just giving you that hint. There'll be a lot more to that POA that will provide more protections than the original POA. Hey, hold on, ladies and gentlemen. Those of you who did the original POA, you don't have to get this one. This ain't for you. This is for anybody who did not sign up for the POA and who want to receive these protections. You already have your protections. I told you, we're creating a trust agreement that we're going to put out for just the SATPAC people. We're going to put one out for the regular people, but that's going to be in that affidavit. But we're going to put out one specifically for the SATPAC people that they will add to their SATPAC, and then it will be in conjunction with the trust that was set up by SATCOM for you that we told you all about in the beginning. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what I'm trying to tell you. A lot of work has gone into this. But again, the site redid. This is the programs page. So as you see, completely different, especially the top portion. And the pictures, different pictures, everything. We changed it up, added some new information. Check it out if you want. I would appreciate it because it was a lot of work. A lot of work. We changed this page and we added this information here. We didn't use the word security on purpose because we don't want people playing around with that word in these agencies because they're mad about the Arbitration Act. Anyway, this is the front page of the SATCOM website. So again, like we said, we changed things up a little bit. That was for your benefit. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go to the real benefit. Let's show you something. Those of y'all who want to play around. Now, you know what? I was listening to one of the videos where I was playing this music in the background. And let me tell you something. I didn't mind it. So from now on, that's what I'm going to do. I like it. And so that's what I'm going to do. Let's do something, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to type in New Hampshire House Bill 1778. Okay? It's the Right to Travel Act for the state of New Hampshire, but we're doing the House bill because it will pull up what we need. Okay? We're going to go here. And see, you see it says the right to travel, so it's the Right to Travel Act, but we're looking for statement and purpose, okay? Which is this section right here. As a matter of fact, let's do this. Forget this because I want to make sure you guys are able to see what we're talking about. Nope, I got to bring it down. Can't even do the touchscreen thing and bring it down. I have to, did I go all the way up to 200? Oh, I went all the way up to 400. Apologize for that, y'all. Wasn't trying to go to 400. You know, those are the 40s. I wasn't around in the 40s. All right, statement of purpose. The general court finds, this is, I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. I did say it was the whole government, but it wasn't the whole government. General court is Congress. When the House and the Senate meet together, that's general court. So I got to apologize for that. Now, technically, it is the whole state government when it passes, but that's not what they were meaning. Okay, let's make sure you understand that. But the reason why it was the assumption is because they talked about how the Chief Justice, okay, had confirmed that. But let's pay attention. We're not going to talk about the private property. We're not going to talk about the right to travel. We need to talk about this. It says that, pay attention, the courts have found, this is federal and state court, because the laws they're referring to are from federal and state courts, have found that corporate public servants who ignore their accountability as mandated in the Bill of Rights. They have an accountability. What's the accountability? They must inform you. Have by their silence, they must inform you. They cannot be silent. And failure to fully inform the sovereign people. Fully informed. They only partially inform you. Technicalities. But here's the thing. They have a duty to inform you. That's the whole point. So they have an obligation to respond to your questions when your questions are directly related to the contract, which is why we get to do a conditional acceptance of the consequences arising from the corporate government offer to contract. Ladies and gentlemen, the government is contracting with you all the time. Don't you get that? That's what New Hampshire is saying, and I'm surprised they're still alive. Because they put this on the record and they passed this law, and this law is an official law in their state. So they just told you that all government does is contract with you. Ain't no more frivolous. Ain't no more this is meritoriously bullshit. Ain't no more judges saying anything like that. Why? Because the Supreme Court has just said any agreement that has an arbitration agreement in it where the parties agree to the arbitration, the courts have no jurisdiction to make any determination as to the validity, whether it's meritless or not. They don't have a right to make a determination. The Supreme Court just said the courts have no jurisdiction. Ladies and gentlemen, you know how I do. I give the credit to the God that I serve. I told you all that from the very beginning. Everybody keeps talking about, oh, he's a genius, but you say you're a genius too. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I do say I'm a genius, but I'm only a genius because somebody allows me to be. I can't be anything without his allowance. Okay? He's my daddy. He gives me an allowance, all right? So y'all just step off. You got your allowances from your daddy. Well, I get my allowances from my daddy, and he allows me to be a genius. And that being said, if you go back, watch the videos of 2012, I kept telling everybody the idea is to figure out how to get out of this system. And I did a video and I told everybody I wasn't going to be watching anybody else's videos and I wasn't going to be listening to anybody else's junk. Because it's all distracting, that junk that everybody else was putting out and everybody jumping on this bandwagon and that bandwagon. Every time somebody came up with something new, everybody wanted to go try that new thing. Ladies and gentlemen, that was allowed for distraction. Many of you were getting distracted. I said, no, I'm not doing that because I saw what was going on. I did a video and told everybody. I said, even when I was running the Legal Redress Commission, I said, we're not going to do that. We're going to stay on point. Talk to the people who are at SATCOM. I'm making sure, that's the only reason why I'm hanging around there is to make sure they stay on point, that they don't get off subject, that they stay right on course with the direction of the organization. Well, the issue was how to get out of their system, how to quit from being put and trapped by their words, because you go to court and you got to say this and you got to say I'm not this and you got to say this and you got to say that. Why do we have to go through all of that? There had to be a way to get out where we didn't have to argue and do the word thing. Well, the Supreme Court on January 8th, 2019 has just announced it. In the Shine case, Henry Sheen, okay? In that particular case, the Supreme Court said, as long as the contract has an arbitration agreement, and that arbitration agreement between the parties says that the arbitration and anything and everything dealing with the contract is to be determined by arbitrator, the courts have no jurisdiction. Ladies and gentlemen, please, everybody's adding an arbitration clause. All the companies do it. Every company, wait, hold on. Let me see if I can prove it, because I just want to make sure y'all understand it, because sometimes y'all don't get it, me, and y'all don't understand it, and y'all just get on my last mother nerve, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, let's see. Let's get a company. Oh, let's do. Got to turn on the light. I just put in Coca-Cola arbitration clause. Is it the real thing? How Coke's one-way bidding. It says preferable to both mandatory arbitration and OWL litigation. Okay? All the companies have an arbitration clause, ladies and gentlemen. I just put in Coca-Cola. Let's do another corporation. Let's do Walmart. Does Walmart have a mandatory arbitration clause? The answer is you would have to have an agreement with Walmart with an arbitration clause in it. The question was, do they have an arbitration clause? So it is, while offering detailed answers to most issues surrounding jurisdiction and arbitration clause. Walmart.com. Jurisdiction and arbitration clauses. Walmart.com. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to pay attention. Everybody's doing the arbitration thing. Do you understand why the Supreme Court came to the decision they came to? Do you understand why this is so important? Why this is so ingenious that we add arbitration clauses to all of our contracts? To all of our affidavits? We're going into court. They want to contract with us. Remember, Did you guys not see? I just showed it to you. Nope, not there. We got to go back. Hold on. We got to go back to the corporate offer to contract. These corporate public servants, these government officials, and their contracts. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't understand. You guys are not getting it. The courts did not have an arbitration contract because they wanted to stay in control. If they put an arbitration contract, arbitration in the contract that we have, their corporate offers the contract, they would lose control because it would be left up to the arbitrator. And that's why they started the AAA, the American Arbitration Association. Okay? That's why they started that, because they wanted to maintain some control. But they messed up because they allowed Bradley Christopher Stark to get before Congress and to get a public law passed, and then to have that information brought to my attention. You see, as I told somebody else today, the unique thing about all of this, if you can't see how meant to be this was, I can't prove it to you, but let me explain it to you this way. Nobody else would have done this. Everybody else who would have picked up on this information would have figured out some way to monetize it. Well, let me make sure you understand. I didn't figure out a way to monetize it. I wasn't trying to figure out a way to monetize it, but there was a way to monetize it, and that was to create an arbitration association. Ladies and gentlemen, we're saying that all of you can get together a group and create your own arbitration association. The only problem is, here's your problem with your arbitration association. You don't have any clients. That's the problem with creating an arbitration association. So guess what? I put the contracts out there for everybody for free, and then I helped to bring together a group of people to help them form their own arbitration association. Please, I have nothing to do with AAA or SAA. The only thing I provide for SAA is making sure they know where to go to find the certain clauses in the act, so that they have the case law, so that they have the rules, so that they follow procedure. You see, so that they do everything right. We're not cutting corners. I won't cut corners. There won't be a conflict of interest, but there is no law that prohibits me from working with SAA. The contracts don't even prohibit me from working for SAA. I prohibit me from working with SAA. I do that. That's for my conscience. Why? Because my conscience says, as long as I have matters that are brought to SAA, because my contract allows me to do that, then I don't want there to be anybody suggesting that there might be impropriety. So I specifically am not permitted to talk with them about any of my stuff, or any of the stuff that I've helped people with. Cannot talk with them about it. There can be no influence whatsoever. All of my conversations with them are recorded. Every single conversation that I have with them is recorded. Even though we're not even talking about SAA business, it's still recorded. Why? Because I don't want nobody claiming that I am dishonest. I don't want nobody claiming that I, as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, have gotten over, have misled, have taken from somebody. I am trying to make up for all the dumb things I've done in my life, and I'm not about to do dumb things now. Why? Because you reap what you sow, and I'm tired of suffering consequences. I remember there was my little cousin was living with me at the time, and I had to punish him. Oh, not physically, just this is the way I punished him. He was 16, and he had stayed out. I had to go out of town, and I left him there by himself. Gave him $200. I was only going to be gone a week and a half, and gave him $200. Left the house full of food, and he was a responsible young man. I didn't have to worry about him burning anything down or bringing people in the house and smoking and all that. That wasn't the way this young man was. But when I came back, I sat him down and I said, all right, so what went on? What happened? And he says, the truth? I said, no, lie to me, because I love it when people lie to me. And he told me the truth, that he had stayed out past the time that we had agreed that he could not stay out during a school night and not stay out on a weekend. And he was honest. So I told him, all right. I said, tell you what, you're going in the room, because he had his own room. Go in the room, and then come back and let me know what your punishment is. And he came back, and he told me And the stuff he was saying, I'm going, wait a minute. That's way too harsh. I'd never do that. No, because he talked about not being able to do this, not being able to do that, and he was going and talking about weeks and months, and I'm like, no, that's too long. So I said, all right, 2 weeks. And 2 weeks he could not go anywhere. When he got home from school, he had to stay in for 2 straight weeks. And after 4 days, he told me, and I said, well, that's a consequence of your action. And he looked at me and he said, I'm tired of consequences, And so, ladies and gentlemen, he got the point without anybody putting any hands on him. And let me explain this to you. From that lesson, that young man has turned out all right. I haven't seen my cousin in, whoa, that's a shame. Almost 15 years. Wasn't my job to watch him for the rest of his life. When he turned 17, his mother had a stroke. And so nobody else wanted to take him. They thought he was a bad youngster and all of that stuff, and I didn't think so. And I was right. That youngster did not get in anybody's trouble, did not bother anybody, did not go out there and do the stupid things that other youngsters do, wasn't out there doing drugs, wasn't hanging out on nobody's corner. He turned out all right. To this day, working, got a family. Yeah, I felt sorry for him because he had a girlfriend and she got pregnant and then had a miscarriage. And he had to go through that and had to go through that with her. And if any of you have ever been through that, and I know some people are going to want to email me about it, please don't do that. But I've known too many people to have miscarriages. Like I said, my mother had to go through having a baby die of crib death. And they call it infant death syndrome now, but it was called crib death for a while, where a baby just died in a crib. My mother had to live with that. Many of you cannot imagine waking up and finding, and that was my mother's firstborn child. So many people can't imagine waking up and finding their baby dead in a crib. Man, you find a baby dead in a crib today and they want to investigate you and lock you up and say you did something to the child. But look at the parents who carry their child in their belly, thinking about what they're going to look like, what they're going to turn out to be, and then the baby dies inside of them. Well, that's what he and his girlfriend had to go through. And he stuck by her the entire time. Like I say, everybody else wrote this young man off, and I said no. And so my little cousin is doing all right by himself. I keep in touch with him from a distance because my whole family disowned me because I didn't go to my mother's funeral. They actually thought I hated my mother. And poor idiots. They didn't even realize that I didn't go to my mother's funeral because I can't stand funerals. I don't want to see a dead body because many of you don't understand, some of you do. When you see a dead body, that's all you remember. Is that person lying in a coffin. I didn't want that to be my last memories of the young lady who raised me. The young lady who went out of her way a many a days, who struggled with me. I would like to go over with all of you and tell you all the things that were wrong physically with me as a child, and how my mother had to work around everything just to make sure I was taken care of. See, we didn't know it was muscular dystrophy. We did not know that. They talk about people with muscular dystrophy, how they're falling all the time. We had no idea. We couldn't explain it. My parents couldn't explain it. Nobody knew. That was my mother who dealt with that every step of the way. That was my mother who had my back every step of the way. So, my family, I have not seen or spoke to a single member of my family in more than 2 years. But hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm 51 years old. Those are all grown people. They're responsible for their own actions. I don't need them to survive. I don't need them to breathe. I don't need them to think about tomorrow. That's up to them. Let me move on and talk about what this video is about so I can go and get some rest. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been expending so much time and effort to make sure of this information, to look at every angle, to look at every out. Please understand, I'm exhausted. I really am exhausted. I was talking to one of the members of the organization earlier today. Well, actually, two of them were on a conference call, and one of them was trying to explain something to me, something about the company, and give me some details. And he was talking, and I interrupted him. I said, everything you just said, every single word you just said, and all of that you just said, all I heard was, and I gave him about 7 words, I think, maybe 6 words. And he spoke for about a good 30 straight seconds. And I said, all I heard were these words, and they were words taken, bits and pieces of that 30 seconds. I said, that's all I heard, because I did not hear a thing you said, not a single thing you said. I said, that's how tired I am. I said, and so I'm going to have to get off the phone, because if I continue to talk, I'm not going to remember this conversation. I said, I told you guys that this was coming, that this was going to happen. I said, well, it's happening more and more, and it's happening more often now, because I'm just exhausted. I will tell you that where I am, the person looked at me the other day and they said, you really must be tired. I said, yep. She said, because you look like you are high. Excuse me. Said I looked like I was high. Ladies and gentlemen, that is how tired I am. Okay? As a matter of fact, yesterday I looked at her and I said I could barely stand up. I said I'm doing the best I can to stand here and cook something to eat because I'm that tired. And then the person offered to cook for me. I said, nope, I got this. And then I went on and went back into the cubicle that I have where I sleep. And I laid down. The only problem is my mind stays on this stuff all day, so I can't get any sleep. So I just took my Alterel so that I could go to sleep, and hopefully I'll make myself stay past sunlight, because the sun comes up at 5:40 in the morning every morning, so I'm up at 5:40. Daylight savings time, Calgon, take me away. I need daylight savings time, because once daylight savings time, spring back, okay? Once daylight savings time gets here, then I'll be able to sleep past 6. Right now, I'm up at 5 every morning, sometimes 4. So my body does I'm there when the sun comes up. Let's get back to the reason for this video. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said, I'm just waiting for everybody to get how important all of this is, that they start adding arbitration clauses. We've given you a sample arbitration clause. Okay, that will work for all of your stuff. The caveat, the arbitration clause, even the common law arbitration section. You don't have to change much. Okay? We made sure that the language included everything necessary under the Federal Arbitration Act, because that's all that applies. But see, some people out there are going to be saying, well, I'm going to make mine for $85 billion because I know the United States, there ain't no money, so I can do it for however much I want. See, those are the people who don't deserve to breathe. That's right, I said it. Because you don't get to do it for whatever you want. Doing it for whatever you want will mess it up for everybody else behind you. But then there's going to be some stupid people, and the system is going to allow some stupid people to do the same thing. You see, they're going to put some fakes out there, some people who are doing stuff, and they're going to let them do stupid stuff, and then the Supreme Court and all the other courts are going to get involved, and they're going to deny them. And then they're going to do like Congress, try to stop you from bringing in certain complaints through arbitration. That's what Congress is trying to do, but they can't, because the moment they do that, they stop so many other arbitrations from going through, because as we told you, all of these organizations have their own arbitration acts in their contracts, especially airliners, especially Walmart, especially Google, especially YouTube, especially Yahoo, especially AOL, especially Time Warner. All of these companies got arbitration clauses in all of their contracts. Why? Because they've all known that this is the, pay attention, this is the government's administrative system's Achilles heel. Remember, arbitration is an alternative administrative remedy. See, they had to give you a way out, and nobody figured it to be a way out except Bradley Christopher Stark. Those of you who are capable of finding out where Bradley Christopher Stark is being housed and what federal prison, Bradley Christopher Stark is running low on funds. If you want to help contribute to that young man while we work on securing his release, especially based on the Supreme Court decision. See, he didn't know about the Supreme Court decision. I sent that to him. Excuse me, I have something playing in the background and it will be kind of loud, so I'm going to turn down the volume. I told y'all when I go to sleep, I listen to certain things, so that's playing in the background now because I was on my way to sleep. Getting back to Bradley, Bradley sent me an email the other day letting me know that he was unable to communicate with me because his funds were getting low. Because he has funds, they're overseas. He can't get access to those funds overseas because he's not overseas. And he cannot allow them to know certain things because then they would play games. And we don't want that. So if you're interested, if you find out where Bradley, I'm not going to tell you because I'm not soliciting money for Bradley, people. So no, I'm not going to give you his information. I'm not soliciting money for him. But those of you who are interested, then you can find out where Bradley Christopher Stark is within the federal prison system by going to Federal Bureau of Prisons website and typing in his name, Bradley Christopher Stark. There's only one, and you'll find out where he is. And if you want to send him something, oh, by the way, as I told you, we had somebody contact Bradley before and gave him an attitude as if they had the right to do so. And it's only because he felt sorry for that person that he didn't give me their information because I told him what I was going to do with that person's information. Okay? That man is going through a lot right now, having to deal with all of this stuff and having to believe that he would have to do this struggle by himself. No, I told him that I would help as best I can and do whatever I can to assist him in this situation. The reason why I'm assisting him, because if it were not for him, I wouldn't have been able to bring this information to all of your attention. You see, like I said, the information came from my God, but how do you think Bradley found me? Bradley's in jail. How do you think he found me? He didn't send anybody to me. A young man named Demetrius Hawkins, who was a part of that group with Bradley, was out. He listened to one of my videos and decided to get in touch with me. Took the time to find out that Google Voice number and called me. And like I said to all of you, I was just so happened on my way to Walmart, and it was a 15-mile trip that I had to take to get to Walmart. And so I told him, I don't normally answer this phone, but I'm headed to Walmart, so you have my attention while I make this trip. And he explained. I didn't believe him at first. I told him, okay, yeah, you can send me the stuff. I said I may not get a chance to read it. It will take me time, and I didn't read it. And that started March of last year. But he was telling me about it, and we talked for about 30 minutes that day. So I had him call me back later that day. We talked again. He was explaining everything to me, but I still didn't believe it, because how can you make the government do something? How can you force the government to contract and bind them to an agreement? I didn't understand that. But then I realized, wait, the government does that with us all the time. Why couldn't we do the same thing to them? And then it went from there. Ladies and gentlemen, a year of studying this. I keep telling you, I keep going to law school, because I had to get rid of all that other dumb knowledge, that stuff that I thought I knew. I had to throw all of it out the door. And I'm telling you all, you have to do the same thing. You have to, all these videos you're watching, you have to stop doing all that. You have to ignore all of that. You have to focus on arbitration. You have to focus on unilateral contracts. Let's do that. I am here. Let's do that. Where's that window at? Dag nabbit. No, not there. I think it's here. Is it here? Okay, it's here. We're gonna open up another window because I was curious, y'all. I thought you were Eon. I was curious. Oh, so you ain't Eon, huh? Okay. Let's find out what a unilateral contract is, because I'm interested. Ain't y'all interested? Oh, I thought you were, curious. Now you want to be interested? Unilateral contracts, an agreement to pay in exchange for performance. If the potential performer chooses to act, a unilateral contract is distinguished from a bilateral contract, which is an exchange of one promise for another. Ladies and gentlemen, our contracts are unilateral because the other party is told that if they do not respond, which is an action, then they acquiesce. That's why the contract is binding. The government does it to us all the time. See, a unilateral contract differs from bilateral contracts in which a party exchanges mutual promises. Bilateral contracts are commonly used in business transactions as sales goods is a type of bilateral contract. Reward offers are usually unilateral contracts. The offeror, the party, offers the reward. Ladies and gentlemen, what I want you to do is get to understand unilateral contracts. You see, our contract says you have 10 days to respond. But we all know that they're not going to respond. What is a unilateral contract? A unilateral contract is an agreement by which a buyer promises to pay for the performance of a specified legal act. A buyer. Does there have to be a buyer? No. Let's break down unilateral contracts. In a unilateral contract, one party pays the other party to perform a certain duty. Ladies and gentlemen, when you're going into the court, ain't nobody paying you. Oh, yes they are. Privileges. Rights and privileges. Well, in our contracts, we're saying, hey, we'll do whatever it is you're asking for, as long as you can prove these things right here. And you got 10 days to respond to my junk, because I'm responding to your junk. It says the first party fulfills the duty. I'm responding to your junk. And the second party is obligated to transfer the specified funds. Got to respond to my junk. However, the first party is under no binding obligation. They only have to fulfill the task if they want to. The first party. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the first party is you. You're not obligated to recontract with them. You're not obligated to conditionally accept their offer. That's why you conditionally accept their offer. You volunteer to recontract with them. The same as you refinance. Okay, are they obligated to respond to you? Yes, because there's a relationship created there. We already went over that. See, for example, Keith. Hey, Keith, I know Keith can offer a unilateral contract to pay Carla, $2,000, and Carla will take Keith's boat into storage. Well, Carla has no binding obligation to take the boat into storage, but if she does, Keith will pay her $2,000. In other words, a unilateral contract is contingent on an action being taken. For instance, when you go into court, you can just, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to tell you to do this, but I'm going to suggest it because this is the other way you get out of the court thing. You just simply remain silent. You don't have to answer. You don't have to say anything. They call the name. You don't have to say nothing. Now, well, I'm going to issue a warrant for blah, blah, blah. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me make sure you understand. I'm exercising my right to remain silent. So I apologize to the court if my exercise of my right to remain silent means that you think you can sit up there and violate my rights by claiming that I wasn't here. No, I'm not appearing before anybody. I'm going to remain silent. You can kiss my anus, Your Honor, respectfully, okay? Remaining silent is how you stop them from doing what they're doing. But remember, they'll threaten you. They'll harm you. So how do you handle them? Unilateral contract, arbitration agreement. Then you say, through your unilateral contract and your arbitration agreement and the outcome, kiss my anus. KMA. Kiss my anus. Okay? That's what we're doing, people. But they told us how to do it. I told you, my job is to do to them what they've done to us. My job is to copy what they do. My job is to monkey see, monkey do. That's what my job is. Now hold on. Unilateral contracts are considered enforceable by contract law, although legal issues cannot arise until one party claims to have completed the task. Well, ladies and gentlemen, after the 10 days are over, they've completed a task because the contract incurs no obligation until an action is taken. 10 days. Legal consideration generally takes the form of the offering party refusing to pay the offered sum, citing improper completion of the task. Determination of contract breach would then depend on whether or not the terms of the contract were clear and if it can be proven that the party completing the task did so adequately. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we can prove because we send it to them priority mail, which comes with a tracking number. Oops. But we don't just send them one notice, we send them 2 notices. And then they get the Arbitration Association send them notice. So let me tell you guys something. In 2017, we started our contracting with this company. No, 2018, sorry. We started our contracting about the same time this other information was being brought to my attention. We started this contracting with a company. And this company, Fidelity, decided that they were going to ignore us. Ignored us. Ignored our attempts to communicate with them. Ignored our qualified written requests. Ignored everything. And then still came after the house and took the house. But we said, wait, hold on, y'all. We accept your offer under the following terms and conditions. You know, they ignored us again. Then we filed a lawsuit. And we put on the record of the lawsuit copy of the contract that had the arbitration clause. Oops. Wait, hold on. Y'all don't understand me. Went through the whole spew of arbitration hearing, notices, defaults. And so the arbitration, I'm told the hearing was held on the 8th of February. We haven't received a copy of the award yet. We're still waiting on that. But the hearing was held on the 8th of February. And they were notified way prior, in the month of January, of the hearing. And they didn't respond until today we received a response. I received it via email. And you know what happened? They have an attorney contacting us in a law firm saying that their clients are not parties to that agreement. That's a shame. 10 days are up. Oh, by the way, even if they didn't receive the original agreement, they can't say that they didn't receive a copy of the agreement because guess what? Pay attention. The Arbitration Association sends them a copy of the contract. So they do have knowledge of the contract. And plus the request for disposition lists the dates that they were required to respond and they didn't respond. No footing to stand on. I've already wrote something to the Arbitration Association in response to their junk because they didn't communicate that with us. They were supposed to send us a copy and they didn't. Shame on them, huh? Shame on them. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is what happened. Let me show y'all what happened because remember they were ignoring us at first. So when they received the arbitration paperwork, they ignored that too, thinking it was junk. Oops. Then they let some lawyer take a look at it. He thought it was junk too, so he didn't respond. Remember, they received their notice back in January. This is March that we're receiving a response from. So why would they wait all the way from January to March to respond to the arbitrator? Well, the reason because they thought that the arbitration was a joke. Somebody must have been watching a video talking about the Supreme Court case. So they say their parties are not parties, their clients are not parties to the agreement. Sorry, the moment the 10 days were up, that constituted an action according to the terms of the agreement, because if the law says that they must perform an act according to the terms of the agreement, well, the first act they performed is by not responding within the 10 days after receiving notice of the agreement. That was the first act. The second act, they didn't respond to the terms of the agreement as the agreement was written. That means to each and every point of averment. Because remember, they gave you the initial offer, telling you you owe this and you got to pay this and you must do this and you must do that. That was the initial offer. And then when they tell you they're going to do something, if you don't do something, they're now changing the terms of the agreement, because the agreement doesn't say they can come talking to you any kind of way they want, do whatever they want. No, they're changing the terms of the agreement. They're adding some new stuff. So, okay, I accept your offer under these conditions. Completely within your right. And it lets them know if they want to move forward, what the consequences are going to be. So the contract is written so that no matter what they do, they're performing an act or an action. That's what a unilateral contract. Pay attention, people. The unilateral contract requires that they perform some sort of a task, or that there it says the contract incurs no obligation until an action is taken, where our contract describes no action as being an action. I tried to tell everybody we had everything covered. So what I'm trying to do right now, as tired as I am, is I'm trying to explain to you everything is covered. I told everybody the time is now to get your contracts done, because they're going to try to find a way to stop us. Why? Because, ladies and gentlemen, this puts a stop to their whole little fraudulent administrative system of the corporate offer to contract. This puts an end to that. Why? Because the arbitration agreement says that the parties cannot go to the courts anymore. They must challenge the arbitration agreement in arbitration only. They cannot do it otherwise. It takes it out of the hands of the courts, period. Child support, everything. But you all need to pay attention. Go back and listen to, and I'm sorry, I know it's going to be some work, but I'm doing all the work for you, showing you all the laws, explaining everything to you, showing you. So go and get your education. You're going to go probably back to October. You're going to watch all the videos from October until present, just all of them. That's the best I can tell you, because all of my videos are in succession. One video leads to another. Because it is a progression, people. It is a, this is where we were, look at where we are. That's what my videos, that's how they are done. If you want to know the method to the madness, the art to the madness, look at all the other stuff you're going to learn. You're going to learn about Ebola. What do you mean I'm going to learn about Ebola? This ain't supposed to be no video about no Ebola. What's up? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that boy better shut up, because he's getting on my nerves. Uh-oh, look at that. Morning break. Ebola aid backfiring. Ebola aid backfiring. Coughing sickness aloft. Wall Street. Wait a minute. Some links may require a subscription. Well-meaning international aid efforts are to bring the Democratic Republic of Congo Ebola outbreak under control, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, they're always going to talk about somebody taking money, because that's how they're going to get you to believe that something is wrong, that the country is so backwards they don't know what they're doing. Ebola response is failing to gain the upper hand on the epidemic. Really? Then how come you guys aren't giving us numbers? Notice they haven't given us a single number in 2 reports. Hold on, I ain't finished. I knew it wasn't gonna let me go, but let's see if we can scroll up. Uh-oh. Japan is drafting guidelines for alerting the public about Ebola patients traveling routes in case of outbreak. Wait, why Japan? Why are they telling you guys about in case of outbreaks? Everybody wants to talk about in case of outbreak. Why are they doing that? This ain't that type of party. Wait, hold on. I gotta bring it all the way down in order to move it, because of the touchscreen thing. Okay, now we can go big. Okay. Uh-oh. It did top 900. I haven't seen this one, you all. It tops 900s. Well, it's actually over 1,000. Shh! This Ebola outbreak has been going on a year. It started March of last year. Ironically, the same time as this whole arbitration process got started, with me knowing about it. Okay? But we have over 900 individuals infected. Okay, the only problem is, y'all, you need to pay attention. They're not giving us the total numbers, because they were at 600 in January. Go back and look. They're at 600 in January. And because it was supposed to be averaging originally in January about 15 cases per day, that's 60 days. You guys understand that? Well, let's just do 10 cases per day to make it easier on everybody. 10 cases per day times 60. Okay, 10 cases per day times 60. That's the average, ladies and gentlemen, at that time. Now, we know that the average goes exponentially, but we're not doing 15. We're only doing 10. We're doing a bare minimum. So 10 cases of Ebola per day times 60, that is 600 cases. But that's only 200 cases, and we took off 5. Well, no, that's easy because, see, we do the 5 times the 60, the 10, because we had 10 cases, so we do the 5 times the 60. Sorry. So we do the 5 times the 60. What does that give us? 5 times 60, that's 330. 5 times 60, 300. 5 times 6, 30. Add the 0, 300. Interesting, ain't it? That should be close to 900 cases, people. But there are only 200 cases between January and March. They're lying to us. The numbers are not adding up. Ebola affects 15 people a day. They did the math. But of those 15 people a day, there are at least 7 people who come in contact with each one of those 15. So you got to multiply that 15 by 7. Okay? And that's how many potential other cases are out there. But notice they only have 907 cases. And they're claiming this Ebola outbreak has only lasted 8 months. Which is a lie, but again, that's what they're saying. And I guess we have to believe them because that's the World Health Organization giving those numbers. And they always tell the truth. But you don't hear nobody reporting it on the news channel. So I'm letting you know. So you're going to hear stuff like this in some of those videos. But ladies and gentlemen, I promise you, if you become an expert in arbitration, writing arbitration agreements, we've already given you a sample. I'm just going to be honest with you. You don't want to make your agreements so ironclad that they're unescapable. Remember, they have to be irrevocable. You can't make a revocable agreement because it can be revoked. Come on now. So you want to make them irrevocable, but you don't want to make it so harsh that you don't have any wiggle room. Plus, you must have an obligation. Did you guys not pay attention? Let me make sure that we get you to pay attention, because some of y'all just don't pay attention, and that's a shame. Ladies and gentlemen, there must be action on both sides. There must be an obligation on both sides. One party has to perform and the other party has to perform. It cannot be a one-sided contract. It cannot be a one-sided contract. Okay, the contract has to be fair, reasonable. It cannot be unconscionable. What does unconscionable means? Well, it means that you get involved in a contract with somebody and they're the only ones who have an obligation. You don't have no obligation to do nothing. Okay, that's unconscionable, because nobody gonna sit up there and do all the work and then tell you, all right, you get to get the benefits of this work. No, even with the government, there's a privilege involved. They have to render a privilege to you, which is exactly what they do. All right, so now that you know, go over your contracts. See, we told you the contracts that we wrote, the incarceration contract and the infant estate contract. You don't have to go over all the laws. That's not the point. You go over the beginning, the caveat, the arbitration agreement. That's the part you're supposed to be going over. You don't have to go over all the laws. You just have to fill in all the spots that are highlighted in yellow. All of the laws are basically showing the cases where the courts have made certain rulings and decisions. They're proof of claims, so the other party has no other choice but to either agree that that's a fact or disagree with the court. But either way, it's a catch-22 for them. It's not unconscionable because they can agree. They'll be admitting guilt, and it's not unconscionable that people would admit guilt, because people admit guilt all the time. Go to court and see how oftentimes people tell on themselves. Okay, so not unconscionable. I did this video because I know that I'm slowing down. Hey, I reached out to Angela Stark at her email address that I had for her years ago. I don't know if it's still working, but I told her that I would do one final interview with her. But I am getting ready to, I don't have a choice, people. I am definitely winding down to where I don't have the energy to keep this going. I've done too much. Shut up. Do not tell me nothing about what I can do for my health. I'm not asking. Do not make no suggestions. I don't care. You know, I do need to say this because I got people telling me, well, I heard you say you don't want this, and then they go ahead and do it anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, you're only going to get my hatred for you. See, if I say, no, don't do something, and it concerns me, and you do it anyway, that means you are disrespecting me. You are ignoring my wishes. There's no way in the world I can forgive you of that. Well, the Bible says you have to. I'm not talking about scripture. I'm saying there's no way in the world I could forgive you for that. See, the Bible allows me to choose my association. 1 Corinthians 15:33 is a scripture that every Jehovah's Witness knows. 1 Corinthians 15:33, bad association spoils useful habits. Okay, so I just will say that you're a bad association. I can't forgive you for being bad association because you can't spoil my useful habits. So you're a bad association, bye-bye. That's what I'll classify you as, because you're trying to go against my conscience. I can't have you going against my conscience. My conscience said no, and you're trying to make my conscience say yes. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because that's the way it will work out. So in English, no. In Spanish, no. In German, niet. In Russian, niet. Okay? Absolutely, positively, doodly. No. You guys don't get to do that. All I can tell you is my fatigue is not coming as a result of the disease. My fatigue is coming as a result of thinking. Thinking is a process with me. It's not just a matter of just closing my eyes and meditating. No, I actually go through a process. I have to outthink a judge, so I have to think, what would a judge say regarding this? Then I have to say, what would an attorney say? Okay, what would 2 judges say? What would 3 judges say? And they're all in the same room, what would they say? And then I have to go, well, what about all the attorneys in the law firms? What would they say? And what about if all the attorneys come together and get together as a group? I can't even close my eyes right now because I'm getting dizzy. That's how tired I am. Okay? But that's what my mind has to do. It has to outthink all of those parties. That's my process. That's what I do. That's why I'm several steps ahead of the game, which is why I say I like the Joker and the Batman series, because he always has a contingency for a contingency for a contingency. Well, that's what I have to do. I have to anticipate what they're going to say. And then I have to anticipate, okay, if I say this, then what will they say? And if I say that, then what will they say? Okay, I won't say this, I won't say that, I'll say that. And then I'll say this. What will they say? Okay, then I won't say none of those things, I'll say this. But that stops them from saying that. That's what my mind goes through. My mind works through all of those scenarios at one without me having to utter a word. It goes through those thought processes. I tell people, all you have to do is go back and look at the Minority Report, where Tom Cruise is sitting up there moving the computer in the sky that doesn't actually really exist in the sky, but on the computer screen through special effects, it looks like it's right there in front of him. Okay, well, that's my mind. My mind sees everything as a puzzle, even the conversation with the judges, and it figures out a way of putting the pieces together so that the puzzle will look like the picture I want it to look like. You know, I told somebody the other day, I said, his mother was an entrepreneur. She was all about making her money, and he didn't get it. Some of y'all gonna get it, because I didn't say preneur, I said pahor. And she was all about making her money. She likes to get paid. Okay. After I explained it to him like that, he got it. He didn't appreciate it, but he got it. So, let me finish my story. Oh, that was not right, telling that boy his mama was an entrepreneur. Okay?
That sounds like one of them newfangled things, and then, no, you can't do that with nobody.
Shut up. Ladies and gentlemen, the way the contract works, the way the arbitration works, is to your benefit. You just have to understand it. You just have to see that this is your way out. And I'm so sorry that all of you who are watching my videos don't see what YouTube has been doing. Look, 100,000 views a month, and these are unadvertised views. The only advertisement that happens is word of mouth. People be like, "Well, you need to go check out that latest video by that fool." No, don't worry about it. Just get past all his antics and just pay attention to what he's saying, cause I think he telling the, you know. Some people need to just follow the advice. Just that simple. Ladies and gentlemen, this information, this effort, this has all been for you. This hasn't been for me. Think about it. I could have kept this information to myself. You see, I'm not about making money. So I could have kept this to myself. I didn't have to tell this to nobody. And if I wanted to make a living off of it, I could have made the money. I could have did everything all for me. I could have been selfish. I could have taken these contracts and I could have made these contracts strictly and specifically for myself and others. Didn't have to tell y'all nothing. I could have been like most of you all, having your own little groups and not wanting to share information. Yeah, I know. Selfish mother. I'm sorry. There's so many people out there with groups trying to keep things to themselves. So what did I do? As much as I hate those type of groups, look what I did. I told them, add an arbitration clause to your junk that you're doing and see the effect that that has. But before you add an arbitration clause, you people must understand what an arbitration clause is and does. So what we did all the research for you. The only thing you have to do is copy our arbitration clause and tweak it to fit your situation. It covers all. Just that simple. Nobody's going to listen. Some people are listening, and they'll be receiving some success. Now, the reason why I told you about that attorney saying that they weren't part of the agreement is because, ladies and gentlemen, they were ignoring us at first. Somebody must have seen something. Somebody must have paid attention to something, because all of a sudden they're not ignoring us anymore. And I'm going after these judges who operate as corporate state employees, going after them in their individual capacity, because I made the courts part of the agreement. So when their judges violate the agreement, I put in a request for arbitration against that individual for violating the terms of the agreement. Don't have to hold a judge in contempt. I go after the judge for bad behavior, because you know a judge keeps and stays in office while in good behavior. So I go after them for their bad behavior. That's how you take care of a judge. Then you can rightfully bring a complaint against the judge, because the court cannot overrule the decision by an arbitrator based on the terms of the contract, especially when the judge was acting in a capacity for which they have no protection. Do you know where a judge acts in a capacity for which they have no protection? When they violate your constitutional rights, when they violate the law, when they violate the rules, when they violate due process. They don't have any protections. And guess what else they don't have protections? When they enter into a contract or engage in commercial activities or business, they don't have any immunity. Oops. That's how you go after them for judicial misconduct, because while not having immunity, they were still trying to act as if they were a judge. So you get them for impersonating an officer because they didn't have the capacity. You get the court because the court was engaged in commercial transaction as a result of the case, because the case is traded on the market. You ain't got to prove it, you just have to bring it up. Pay attention, if the judicial council says that the judge did not violate, then you bring a claim with the arbitrator against that judicial council, because if you brought it against the court and the court's part of the agreement, the judicial council is against the agreement. So if they violate the law, if they sit up there and does not follow the law, then you bring an arbitration claim against them for breach of agreement. You see, the way the arbitration works is when you bring it against multiple parties, you can go after those parties all together at once, and then you get to go after them later for breach of the agreement. Because the agreement is still binding. Even if you get the arbitration award, the agreement is still binding until it's fulfilled. You guys don't understand contract law. Even if there's a breach of the agreement, an irrevocable agreement, a self-executing agreement, a binding agreement is still binding even though there is a breach. A breach does not kill a contract. A breach just documents that a party's failure to fulfill their obligation. Do they still have an obligation? Of course they do. For instance, you don't pay your money, your mortgage, and you don't pay it for 6 months. Do they not foreclose on you? Or do they not still make you obligated to pay the balance of that? Of course they do. So a breach does not kill the contract. So if the parties keep breaching the agreement, you just keep going back into arbitration. But you cannot do double jeopardy, people. Do you understand? You cannot do double jeopardy. Some of you are going to do some very interesting, stupid things, which is going to deprive you of the right to arbitrate, going to deprive you of the right to have your contracts validated and or to sit up there and to get justice or a semblance of justice. That's going to be your fault, because you're going to do way too much stuff that you shouldn't be doing, that you shouldn't be adding, because you're going to try to get creative. And I'm telling you, that's your worst friend. You need to leave creative alone when it comes to this process. Keep it simple, stupid. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. KMA. Keep it simple, stupid. Kiss my anus, okay? Keep it simple, everyone. Keep it simple. If you take a look at the contract, if you take a look at the equitable remittance coupon, we kept it simple. Every company who's sitting up here trying to milk you and take your money. Now look, I just had to explain this to somebody last night, and I gotta explain this to all of you guys. If you're going to use the equitable remittance coupon, you still have to pay the mortgage until the arbitration award is issued. Once the arbitration award is issued, it's all about offsetting debts. That's what it becomes, because the arbitrator, while issuing the award, has confirmed that the agreement is binding, legitimate. There can be no one questioning the agreement. We have the attorney claiming we're not part of the agreement. Yes, you are. The reason why you're part of the agreement is because you have a contract with the complainant, and they did a conditional acceptance of your offer. They can't say that they didn't make an offer. Of course they made an offer. That's all it is. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I am really tired, so I'm gonna go lay my head down to sleep and all that other good stuff. I hope that this information proves helpful to many of you. I hope that many of you will go back and watch the videos that talk about arbitration, get a better understanding of this. If you can't see this is the way out, there's nothing else I can do. I can do 100,000 more videos, and it still would not help many people, because they just can't see what's right in front of them. When I said I promise you this was the way out, I can say it again. I guarantee you this is the way out of that stupidity. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, and ladies and gents, at 1 hour and look at that, 8 minutes. Okay, we have to say adios. Take care, have a good day, have a good night, have a goodbye, arrivederci.